Have you ever seen these little roadside signs? You know, the ones that are stuck to telephone poles or on street corners that advertise to pay cash for houses? Well, these little signs are called bandit signs. And in this video, we're gonna pull back the curtain and I'm gonna show you how these little signs can make you an extra $20,000 per month or more. Bandit signs. Now I know you've seen them around town. These are those little plastic corrugated roadside signs that say things like, "We buy houses fast for cash," or "Stop foreclosure," or "Cash for houses." Well, these signs, they're there because a wholesaler or a real estate investor is out looking for a good deal. So typically what happens is whenever a homeowner finds themselves in a situation where they desperately need cash quickly, maybe they're going through a rough financial time because they lost their job or they went through a divorce or they're facing foreclosure, maybe because the house itself is in rough shape, maybe because it's old or outdated, has foundational issues, fire or flood damage. Whatever their situation is, to make a homeowner not want to or be able to afford to sell through a traditional channel, like through a real estate agent, then selling to somebody that could close quickly, pay cash, it becomes extremely sexy, and all of a sudden, these little bandit signs, right, these ones, they become a super effective way to get some really good deals. Now, we call this type of advertising guerrilla marketing because it's one of the cheapest and most aggressive forms of paid advertising. And like I said earlier, typically it's wholesalers or real estate investors that are out there putting these signs up. And just to catch everybody up, wholesaling is an investing strategy where you find sellers that are motivated to sell quickly for cash. You put their house under contract, typically at a purchase price that's a discount from retail. Then you shop that contract around town and you find a cash buyer, typically a landlord or a rehabber. And when you find one, what you do is you assign your rights to that contract, to that good deal, over to the cash buyer using an assignment form, and we typically do this for a markup, and when the deal closes, everybody gets what they want. The seller sells quickly, they get their cash, a real estate investor, they get a really good deal, and the person in the middle, the wholesaler, they get paid a wholesale fee for putting the deal together. It's a win-win-win situation, and one of the oldest forms of no money down real estate investing that's out there. Now, it would look something like this. And I'm going to make this scenario up, so just bear with me. Let's say John is a landlord. He has 15 houses. He's owned them for 25 years, but John's getting older, right? And his kids could care less about real estate. They don't want to deal with houses. If John ever passed away, they don't want anything to do with the houses. They just want some money. Well, one night, John's tenants, in the middle of the night, decide to just move out. And on their way out, they trash the place. And out of all his rental portfolio, this has kind of been the problem house, right? And he's just sick and tired of dealing with it. At this point, John has to make a choice. He can fix the property back up, re-rent it, or he could sell the house and just cash out and be done with it. Well, in this example, let's just say the house is worth, all right, he's got a nice little house. It's kind of old, it's outdated. It's worth 100, oops, actually, let me do it like this. It's worth $160,000. All right, that's what his house is worth. But it needs 35, man, I'm having a hard time writing, K worth of work, right? The house is over 50 years old, it needs updating, it's not in the greatest area of town, it's far away from the rest of his rental portfolio. Well, John can hire a real estate agent who's probably going to sit him down and first he's going to look at the property and run the comps and look at the area and see what other houses are selling for, and he's going to sit John down and he's going to say, listen, we should probably list a little bit below retail because the house needs a ton of work, it's really, really old, and it's probably going to take a few months to sell even at that price. Plus, John, if he went this route, he'd have to pay commissions and closing costs, and the buyer, would probably show up, and nobody wants to pay list price for a house, so they're going to want to negotiate to get a good deal, and ultimately the buyer would probably be a real estate investor anyways because of the amount of work the house needs. But on his way home, all of a sudden John sees a bandit sign on the side of the road, and he thinks to himself, I wonder what they would pay for my problem property. So he calls, and after some conversations on the phone, John meets the real estate investor out at the property, and after some rapport building and a property tour, John and the investor, they go back and forth, and they negotiate a purchase price for the property that they're both happy with, and eventually they figure it all out. They come up with a meeting of the minds. Now, in this example, let's say the terms of the deal would look like this. Let's say the wholesaler puts it under contract for $80,000. Okay? So it's worth $160, needs $35K worth of work, but he negotiates with John. John says, I'll sell it for $80K. Maybe John owns it free and clear at this point. He's owned it for so long. So he says, sure, I'll sell it to you for $80,000, but I want to close quickly. So when you work with the wholesaler, some of the other terms of a deal might look like this. Buyer pays closing costs. Now, in a typical real estate transaction, the seller normally pays their half of the closing costs, and the buyer pays their half of the closing costs. But a lot of times wholesalers, when they show up at a house, they say, listen, my job is to make this sale as simple as possible. That's why you want to go with us versus selling through a real estate agent. So I'll cover all the closing costs. Plus, there will be no commissions. What else? They'll buy as is. So there's no repairs. All right? And we will close within, this is a very important, if I could spell, within 15 business days. Close within 15 business days, all right? 15 business days is actually like 30 real days because you got weekends in there. So they go back and forth. This is the offer the wholesaler makes on John's property. John says, sure, I'm happy with this deal because it's fast, it's a simple transaction. Truthfully, it's not too much further away from what he would have gotten if he would have sold through a real estate agent. By the time you back out what the people negotiate off the list price and then closing costs and commissions and repairs and holding costs, and by the time he works its way down, they're actually not that far off between a wholesaler's offer and a traditional sale offer, but he didn't have to wait 2 to 3 months to get his cash, all right? So what typically happens next is the wholesaler then puts John's property under contract, right? So he fills out some paperwork to purchase John's property according to this deal. And then what he typically does is he holds up that contract and he starts shopping it around town to find the real back-end cash buyer, right? Normally either another landlord or a rehabber that's out looking for a good deal. They have more money than time, right? So the wholesaler is saving them a lot of time and serving them up good deals on silver platters. So what happens is the wholesaler starts marketing the property. He or she puts it on social media, on Craigslist. They send out email and text blasts to their cash buyer list. And I have other videos here on YouTube where I show you how to build a cash buyer list. But they start marketing the property all around town. Maybe they even talk to other wholesalers and try to find out, see, who's got a cash buyer that wants this deal. So let's say in this example, see if I can move that back. Let's say in this example, the wholesaler is shopping it for sale for $90K. All right, the wholesaler wants $90,000 for the property, and another landlord takes a look at the deal and says, hey, I want that deal. So then what happens is the wholesaler will assign their rights to buy this deal over to that landlord using a one-page contract called an assignment form, which, by the way, in the description of this video down below, you're going to see a link. I'm going to be hooking you guys up. I want to give you my ironclad assignment contract. It has my special clauses baked into it, which protect my profits. This is about $1,000 value. If you would go out to a attorney and try to pay for this, you'd probably charge you anywhere between $800 to $1,000 for this legal document. I want to give it to you absolutely free. I've used this over 1,000 times in my business, and it's my gift to you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And please share this channel with some friends so we can all make a lot of money together. All right, anyways, that's down below. So what happens is they market it around town, they find somebody that wants it, they assign their rights over to the back-end cash buyer, right? And when the deal closes, so $80K is what we have it under contract for, $90K is what the landlord wants to buy it for, and when we actually close on the deal, we've created for ourselves a $10,000 matchmaker fee for putting the deal together. All right? John gets the price he agreed to, right? He no longer has to deal with this problem property. He gets the cash. On the other side of the transaction, the landlord, they get a smoking hot deal they couldn't have found anywhere else for a very good price. We in the middle, as the wholesaler, using our little bandit sign strategy to generate this lead, make $10,000. It's a win-win-win scenario. Now, I've done this multiple times per month for years now. But here's the thing, and I want to show you this. My average wholesale fee equals $12,500. That's about what I make on average for every single wholesale transaction I do here in Arizona. Now, your area might be a little different. It might be higher. If you're in California, it's much, much higher. You know, Texas, higher. You know, Florida could be a little higher. Could be lower. If your property prices are a lot lower, it might be lower. But on average, I'm making about $12,500 per deal. So the numbers look like this. 600 to 700 bandit signs equals 1 to 2 deals. That's the numbers I'm currently seeing. All right? Bandit signs cost $1. Right? Now, the bigger ones, this size might be $1 and this size might be 80 cents, right? So there's different size bandit signs. You can kind of price them out, see which ones work better for you and are more cost effective. But to get them printed, they cost about $1 each. Then on top of that, there's a couple different ways to put these signs up. You can get a wooden stake, right? You can buy the wooden stake from Home Depot, or sometimes the people that provide bandit signs will sell you the stakes. They're normally about another $1. Right? So stakes equal another $1, or you can punch holes in the bandit sign and get zip ties and zip tie the bandit sign up to a pole. All right? So zip ties equal, they're about $15 per 50 for about a 36-inch long zip tie. All right, so you got your bandit signs cost $1, your stakes cost $1, zip ties are $15 for 50 of them, and the other way to put them up is what's called a sign stapler. This is where you either nail or you actually staple the bandit signs to wooden poles. Now here in Arizona, we don't have a lot of wooden telephone poles anymore, right? We got some palm trees that we can maybe nail them to, but a lot of places in the country now have metal poles everywhere. So if you still have wooden poles, you can just nail them right to the wooden pole, or you can use what's called a sign stapler. This basically is a giant, like, industrial strength stapler on a pole. So you put up your bandit sign and you whack it, and it staples it right to the wooden telephone pole. All right. So anyway, 600 to 700 bandit signs get me 1 to 2 deals. Cost me about $1 a sign, $1 a stake, whatever my time is worth to go put them out. If you do it yourself or if you pay for somebody else to put them out, I like to get like an intern or somebody who wants to learn real estate, I'll say, hey, listen, you know, try to find somebody who's 17, 18 years old. They want to, maybe 19 years old. They're just starting college or they're just out of high school and they're like, hey, I want to learn real estate. It's like, hey, I'll let you learn from me, but you got to put out my bandit signs and do some of my grunt work type stuff, but I'll teach you some of the biz. All right, so there's some creative ways to get other people to put out your signs. But the whole entire deal, right, front to back, if I was to do this strategy, the whole entire deal, front to back, is going to take 3 to 5 hours worth of work. Right? 3 to 5 hours worth of work. That's me taking the, you know, the calls, talking with the sellers, going back and forth, maybe driving out, meeting with them, negotiating with them, putting it under contract, finding the cash buyer, maybe 3 to 5 hours worth of actual work. Plus, let's just say you want to put out your own bandit signs. Let's say you put out bandit signs and it takes you 4 hours worth of work per week. All right, 4 hours worth of work per week. All right. So let's run these numbers. And this is when that shift happens and you're like, oh my God, this is where it's getting exciting and why so many people love creative real estate investing. So if one deal equals, on average, $12,500, 7 hours worth of actual work to get one deal, okay, that equals $1,785 per hour that you're going to get paid on average. And remember, if I'm putting out 600 to 700 bandit signs to be able to get this one deal, right, which means, and I'm getting normally more than one. I'm getting 1 to 2. A lot of times it's 2. So we're just going to be conservative and say you just get one deal. So that's $1,200 on average in expenses. Okay, to make $12,500 to $25,000 per, I guess, I don't want to say month, but maybe it's month, you know, per session that I do this, per session. I like session better. So if I go put out the 600, 700 bandit signs, I go through this whole process, I come out the other end of it, I'm pretty much making $12,000 to $25,000 per round that I do. Let me ask you something. How would you like to earn $1,785 per hour for your time? That's why so many people love creative real estate investing, and this is just from one simple strategy, right? There's so many different types of signs that are out there, right? I almost had it, all right. Signs, right? Just these little roadside signs. They work, they're extremely profitable. They're kind of a pain in the butt. You know, you got to go put them out, and there's some nuances with them, and I got to be honest with you, they're not legal, right? You don't want to get caught putting these things out. I do it. I put out tons of bandit signs. I pay the fines. I've actually come up with some creative ways I'm going to share with you here at the end of this video on how to do this strategy without getting caught. But if I get caught, I get some fines and I keep moving on. I just add that to my cost of expenses, right? I'm just like, hey, if I'm going to pay $100 or $500 in fines, I don't care. I'm making so much money right now. Cool. But I actually have some creative ways I'm going to teach you how to get around that. But these signs work, and it's a game of consistency. All right, you want to put them out regularly, and I like to focus on working class areas of town that have high cash buyer activity. In other words, where landlords and rehabbers like to and can afford to buy deals for cash. All right, so I want to end this video by giving you 10 awesome bandit sign tips. Now, first off, handwritten signs, right? And you can use signs for both sides of the transaction. You can sell your houses using Bandit Signs and buy houses using Bandit Signs. But the handwritten signs, they work great for selling properties, and printed signs I found typically work a little bit better for buying properties. All right, and if you're lazy like me, you're going to have somebody else do all the actual work for putting out the signs. All right, next one. Signs stay up longer in low income and working class neighborhoods. Also, you'll be less likely to get a ticket because the police really don't care for whatever reason. It's sad, but it's true. I put out signs in like Scottsdale, which is a really nice area. I get all my signs pulled immediately, and I get called by the city like, hey, you can't be doing this, and they'll fine you. It happens quickly. I put them out in Phoenix or Glendale, kind of in working class neighborhoods, and some of my signs have been up for like years. They still stay up, all right? I don't get messed with in the working class neighborhoods, all right? Next is to put your signs up near grocery stores, banks, outside of hospitals, big box stores, and entrances into neighborhoods. All right, I don't just put them on major street corners. I try to get creative where I strategically place them. I also like the next piece of advice is to consistently farm an area. All right, the average person is going to need to see your message 11 plus times for taking action. So you keep putting out signs. I put out hundreds and hundreds of signs. The signs get pulled. I re-put them back out. But I don't overpopulate an area with my signs. This is the fastest way to piss off the local residents and get on the radar of city officials. All right. I also like the littler signs, right? I'll get to that here in a second. But next tip is don't zip tie. Oh, I wish I had a red sign. I used to have these red signs that were cut in the shape of a house, and I would have white lettering on them. And I zip tied the sign, a red sign, I zip tied it to a stop sign. Don't ever do that. Ask me how I know. I got super trouble for putting red signs zip tied to stop signs. I thought it was a creative way to get deals because they have to stop at a stop sign, and they were probably used to seeing red and white already, but it was a really, really, really bad idea. Moving on. Like I was saying earlier, smaller signs typically stay up longer and they cost less money. Use yellow signs with black text. This is another tip. Use yellow signs with black text if you live in a place where it snows. Right? Kind of self-explanatory. If this sign is up and this sign is up, this is the one you're going to see. But you'd be surprised how many new people buy a bunch of white Bandit signs because maybe they're cheaper and then it snows. And then you're like, that was worthless. All right. Next tip, use a burner phone number for the phone number that you put on your signs. Right? A burner phone number, not your cell phone number, not a traceable phone number. Put a burner phone number. Right, a prepaid phone number, all right? And use a company like Pat Live, which is a 24-hour phone service for real estate investors that answers the calls, right? So you don't even have to answer your calls. Just pay an answering service that's 24 hours to answer your calls. So you have a burner phone number, it goes to a phone service, very difficult to track you and find out that they're your signs, all right? And I think the last tip that I have for you is if you have somebody else place your signs, I highly recommend that you use an app like Simple Crew, right? That's the name of the app, Simple Crew, to help you track and monitor your sign placers. It geolocates every single sign that they place, and if you get a call from the city for some reason, then you can figure out where they saw the sign, and you can look it up, and you can go pick the sign up and avoid any fines. All right. What do you think? What do you think of this video? All right, did you get something from it? If you are ready to dominate with Bandit Signs right now, please smash the like button, leave me a comment down below, and if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to do that right meow. All right, grab my free ironclad real estate contract by clicking the link down below, and I'm Cody Sperber, the Clever Investor, signing off for now. Take care, comb your hair, Sperber out.